Happy Thursday, YouTube. Happy Thursday, everyone. And I would like to welcome my guests, whom I will mention in the order in which I see them. So, hello, Ashley.
Hello.
And joining us, I think for the first time this week, but returning guest, hello, Koki Pirate.
I am in alignment with Thursday.
And Gunderson, are you another returning guest, but first time this week? Are you very much in alignment with Thursday?
What do you mean?
I don't know. Koki, what did you mean?
I mean, I have accepted the truth that today is Thursday.
Exactly.
That's such a hard truth to accept.
Well,
can you open yourself to the possibility that Thursday does exist?
Just about.
Okay.
I'm sure Thursday does exist, but at the same time, I think you kind of have to believe.
Yes, the agnosticism of Thursday.
But wait, to deny Thursday is to deny Thor.
Can I get a definition of exactly what Thursday is first before I...
You're an ig Thursdayist, are you?
Yes. I need to know exactly what I'm agreeing to.
To be honest, this was discussed a couple of weeks ago where I proclaimed that Thursday is a state of mind.
I don't think anybody can argue that point.
Oh, I win.
Because, really, I mean,
By
it's
default.
You just need to open your heart to Thursday. But wow,
Exactly.
This is a random tangent we've gone on. Sorry about that.
Yes, does anyone think that this is maybe a little bit in poor taste, given the subject of this week's discussions?
Quite possibly. Well, hello, Ashley, are you there? Ashley?
Yeah?
Oh, hello, you are there. Excellent. Okay. Are you ready to accept Thursday as your personal savior?
What is Thursday saving me from?
Wednesday.
Other than the obvious answer of Wednesday.
Well, that's it. That is the answer.
I'm going to have to think on that. I'm going to have to do some deep meditation.
Well, we're not here to be clearly the brainiest metaphysicists in the world, with fancy degrees and what have you. This article, which, and yes, I am bringing levity down at this point. There is levity reduction at this point, because this does still relate to recent events. But sexism in the media, and bearing in mind that obviously the best term I can think of is shooter, which I think is a term Americans use for this kind of thing. But he was part of that kind of Hollywood culture, for one. I will actually add to this, because one of the first things when I watched his videos, to be honest, it made me think of those Jack the Ripper letters, which were fake, where you sort of think the person who faked these letters read too many Penny Dreadfuls. To watch Elliot Rodger, he looks like a bad actor. It looks like a student film. It looks like somebody he doesn't even have a good wahahaha. You know what I mean? If out of context, I would have said a scene from Student's first film at student school. Student school? That's a tautology. Student. Film school. And there's something hammy. There's something a bit, and I'm not going to go down that path of imitating films with bad guys who shoot people, blah 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 blah. But in terms of film, in terms of our culture, our whole media culture, I would say this could be a factor. And even if this isn't necessarily the right catalyst for us to look at this issue, it's still a serious problem. So I'm going to go around in the order I can see. The order I can see is Ashley, you, James, Cookie Pirate, then Gunderson. So, Ashley, your thoughts?
Well, I did watch part of his video, before we started recording. And I can see where that's coming from about, the media and how it could be perceived as him being very poorly theatrical. However, taking into account his autism and the fact that he was very withdrawn, that kind of video could have easily been, I've seen other quote-unquote shooters, as we're calling them, of videos, and it was very similar. Or even other violent young people ranting. And it's very withdrawn, it's very cold. It's what's missing there, and why we think it's very theatrical and withdrawn, is because it's very cold. They don't feel connected. And that's where we're getting this, Hollywood-themed video. It's not much different than other videos like it that I've seen, and they're definitely not in that Hollywood, society. I just don't buy it that it's necessarily that. I suppose it could be he was trying to be theatrical, but I think he was just proving just how disconnected he was from society. The key words and phrases that he used throughout the whole thing was that he was suffering, and nobody seemed to care. He felt like nobody understood him, and we get this dry, very cold and withdrawn video that was probably a long time coming. He was probably all out of emotion by then. With a lot of situations, where you work yourself up to something, you get to the point where you're just numb. But he still wanted to communicate everything, but it came across as numb, not even worthy of really taking seriously because there was no emotion to it.
Okay, and James?
Well, first of all, addressing Elliot's video, yes, obviously meaning no offence to any neuroatypical people, this is not necessarily indicative of the whole group or the norm amongst neuroatypical people. But when people do have autism spectrum disorders, the lack of ability to interact, the lack of ability to feel empathy can lead to acting, literally just copying what other people do.
Because they don't know any different. They can't they can't fake it.
Exactly. So that might be the situation there. However, I ultimately feel that this is irrelevant, at least incidental to the whole issue. First of all, to the person who wrote the article, he was not mentally ill. We spent an entire segment discussing this at length. He was neuroatypical. He was never diagnosed with any form of mental illness. So the antipsychotics that he took were prescribed to treat, were prescribed because he was an irritable person with an autistic spectrum disorder, and the antipsychotic treated was prescribed, could also be used as a treatment for irritable autistics. It's the same as antidepressants being used to treat anxiety disorders. And But the whole issue of the media, which the sexism and the macho culture of the media and society as a whole, this goes into what Ashley, Luke, and I were discussing a couple of days ago. How yes, he was Elliot was an isolated, angry, troubled, emotionally damaged, lonely, hurt teenager. 20-something, or
Yeah, he's 22.
He was 22.
22, but sounded very teenage.
Yes,
Exactly,
he did. Yeah.
When you see a person like that, and your immediate thought is troubled teen. But still, how did society influence and guide him on the path towards being a mass murderer, a shooter, a person who killed 6 people? And although the person who wrote the article makes it in the worst possible way, in my opinion, from my perspective, simply using the Isla Vista tragedy as an excuse to simply raise the same old feminist talking points of sexism in the media, macho action films, the hero getting the girl, the Bechdel test, etc. That is an issue which, as a society, we have to discuss. When, regardless of whether they end up committing a shooting and killing 6 people or end up working at McDonald's, generations now have been raised on the idea that the hero kills the bad guy and gets the girl. The standard model of sexuality in films and in television, especially Hollywood films and television, is the alpha male. The classic image of Captain Kirk laughing on the set of Star Trek, the original series. The meme, I'm sorry, I can't hear you over the sound of how awesome I am. The way that he described himself in his final video before the shooting as the true alpha male, resenting women because they did not see his awesomeness. They did not automatically throw themselves at him. In his mind, in his isolated, isolated, emotionally troubled, lonely, angry mind, he was doing everything that society demanded of him. He was handsome, he was rich, he was the son of a film producer. Women were supposed to be throwing themselves at his feet, and yet they were ignoring him in favour of quote, ugly black people, the descendants of slaves, naturally inferior when he was descended from British royalty. So, this idea that, yes, women are prizes, are commodities to be purchased or prizes to be won, this is a serious issue which will continue to exist long after, unfortunately, the Isla Vista tragedy has been forgotten.
So, Koki Pirate, your thoughts?
Well, I think that it's interesting that they brought up, expectations that the media gives us because, Elliot mentioned college, and he had certain expectations, and obviously all these expectations, we don't know how much of it is just cultural memes that operate independently of television and how much of it is due to the movies, which show college as this very festive, very sex-fueled sort of period in people's lives. So people certainly go into it with that expectation. And, in terms of the violence, I'm not sure if I'm qualified to comment on, art imitating life or life imitating art, or that's something that we always discuss, like how much of this is influencing us and how much of it is simply influenced by. But something that I've seen in a lot of these shooters, Anders Breivik, the Virginia Tech shooter, I forget his name, and even with certain Islamist groups, like when you look at the Boston bombing case, these were young guys, and it seems as though they were either in pursuit of or had delusions of grandeur. They wanted to be fighting against something or doing something. In the Virginia Tech case, he was sort of railing about, the wealthy or whatever. With the Boston bombings, he kind of fell into the Islamist groups. So he didn't leave a manifesto, I don't think. Anders Breivik, is communism and multiculturalism and all that. In this case, I'm not sure if it's the message itself as much as he feels as though he wants to communicate that he's doing this because there's some sort of fundamental wrong in society that he needs to fix. And, this isn't limited to shooters. We could look at Snowden, for example. For better, for worse, I'm not, casting moral judgment. But you could certainly see a sense of this, these delusions of grandeur that they're fixing, some sort of fundamental problem. And I think it has something to do with, that phase in your life, which I guess I'm not sure if I'm in or if I've passed, but there's certainly a range that you feel as though your life should mean something, that you should be doing something, that you should go out there and be saving the world or curing cancer, or, as Fight Club put it, we were all told that we were going to be rock stars and movie stars, or rock gods or movie stars. We have all of these expectations, and then when we're 20-something and nothing's happening with our life, there's that fundamental frustration. It's a developmental thing, and I'm not sure if it's this because of the expectations of men, or well, I guess more so with men. There's really a push to go out and be someone, but there's certainly a fundamental frustration, and I would say it is a male frustration that predominantly male. I wouldn't say exclusively male. That we have these expectations because of cultural expectations, which are communicated to us through the media, of being someone. And granted, a lot of people can go through this frustration and never be violent, but I feel like, this desire to be someone big is probably a big part of this.
Oh, okay. And Gunderson?
I just thought that basically I reckoned more that the ideas of entitlement that he clearly held regarding sex and women and whatnot was more. I wouldn't have guessed it was communicated through media. I get the feeling it would have been more like an online. Well, I'm not going to say MRA thing, but like a part of the overall. I think the collective name for it is the manosphere or something.
Yes, that's right.
So I somehow, because he was a part of he did follow some of those kinds of channels on YouTube, from what I've been told. So I got the feeling it would have more come from that.
Yes.
Granted, I'm someone who knows full well what it's like to be frustrated with a lack of companionship. Except I wasn't such a narcissistic prick about it. I kind of thought it was my fault when I was like that. And to be honest, I still sort of am, but that's beside the point. So I didn't really think that... I don't really have much to say. I think maybe the author of the article might be overemphasizing the role that media may play in his development of his ideas, but overall, it's obvious that either way, he had those ideas. He must have gotten them from somewhere, which is through the people around him. So, and so it's still a problem regardless from where exactly he got them. It's obviously still a wider social issue.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I really have much to say other than that.
He had some racist ideas and some racial supremacist ideas as well, of course, and we don't. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's also true.
Okay, does anybody else have anything to add?
Yes, quite a lot to add. First of all, in response to Koki regarding extremism and delusions of grandeur, this is one of my main topics, what I now call tribalism. You used to describe it as ideology. But John Cleese summed it up perfectly in this quote. The biggest advantage of extremism is that it makes you feel good because it provides you with enemies. Let me explain. The great thing about having enemies is that you can pretend that all of the badness in the whole world is in your enemies and all of the goodness in the whole world is in you. Attractive, isn't it? So if you have a lot of anger and resentments in you anyway, and therefore enjoy abusing people, then you can pretend that you're only doing it because these enemies of yours are such bad persons, and if it wasn't for them, you'd actually be good-natured and courteous and rational all the time. So if you want to feel good, become an extremist. You can strut around abusing people and telling them that you could eat them for breakfast and still think of yourself as the champion of truth, a fighter for the greater good, and not a sad, paranoid schizoid that you really are. So, yes, this whole idea that Koki was talking about, this idea that when you're a child, you're raised with the expectation of becoming a millionaire, a movie star, a rock god, of changing the world, and then you end up working at McDonald's. So yes, this, as I've discussed, actually changing the world, helping people is incredibly difficult. But whereas just blaming the people you hate and claiming that, if only X didn't exist, whatever X is, then the world would be sunshine and buttercups. That's as easy as taking candy from a diabetic baby. Gunderson, what was your main point again?
I assumed he would have gotten these ideas from friends of his.
Exactly, from the manosphere. We've discussed this in a previous segment with Ashley, I think, or at least I touched on it. The fact that you can't really go onto the internet, as much as MRAs and MGTOWs and pickup artists are screaming that no, he was just a lone nut, this isn't what the MRA represents, you can't go onto the internet and hear that women use men as walking wallets and walking cash machines. Women friend-zone men, offering sex and denying it to them just to get whatever they want. That women entrap men in marriage and pregnancy and falsely accuse men of rape and so on and so forth, and never suffer any consequences. You can't say that to someone like Elliot Rodger, who again is narcissistic, entitled, angry, and then not expect something like this to happen. And finally, Alex, what was your point as well, please?
I think I've forgotten.
Damn it.
Well,
but,
I do, I guess when we talk about sort of extremism, I mean, we don't really view the MRM, or I guess in this case, the pickup artist community, the pickup artist hater community, I guess it's hard to really place in the manosphere as sort of like this militant group, but you do have these sort of outliers. And, there was also sort of these racial notions. And I think he also, sort of fast at wealth and people who were wealthier than him. I'm not sure how much of it is, the ideology and how much of it is he's just taking what he can to justify, I guess, like you said, trying to find enemies so he can feel good.
Yes, what Alex's point was about racism. Again, I think that was more down to his own insecurity, narcissism, etc. From reading from the manifesto and from the video, saying that he always assumed that, quote, blonde sluts rejected him, never noticed him, whatever the correct term is, because he was half Asian. Again, but then saw these same blonde sluts, in inverted commas, talking to full-blood Asian men. And this is something which, again, could be influenced by the media. That with very rare exceptions like Wesley Snipes or Will Smith, heroes are always straight, square-jawed, brown-haired white men. Just look at the video games industry. It's no, it's because I'm half Asian. They'll only want to sleep with superior white alpha males. What? They're fucking N-words as well? So again, to try and blame it on any one issue, racism or the media, etc. It was all just a soup of entitlement and rage and hatred and projection and extremism, and it's far too complex to really just have an article like this saying, how could the media have influenced him? Although, as you pointed out before we started recording, Alex, this question is still much more valid than blaming the shooting on communism or same-sex marriage.
Okay, and just to explain, we have lost Ashley. She had to run. Other than that, if I could have some closing thoughts. So, James, your closing thoughts.
The more of this I think about it, the more this ties into one of my themes which I've been exploring in my videos for the last few months. The ideal which all people are expected to achieve, the husband, wife, 2.4 children, nice house in the suburbs, dog, white picket fence. This, and also the ideal of the white, square-jawed, cisgendered male hero, admired by men and desired by women. Most people do reach adulthood and realise that no, that is a fantasy, that is a dream. But in a few rare cases, like Elliot Rodger, they become incredibly bitter, angry, and eventually horrifically violent because no, the world doesn't work like that. So it does raise so many important issues, but of course that would take another 3 years to discuss or to even to explore. So in the meantime, may the great holy donkey bless your house for 7 generations.
Oh, as many as 7. Okay.
That's the unlucky number, though.
And Koki, your final thoughts and goodbyes.
Well, I mean, obviously we have a lot of expectations in society, be it expectations of importance, expectations of sex, and a lot of this is communicated through the media, and we have reached an age where we have a very individualist culture. We don't view ourselves as much as a people accomplishing things, but like we need to go out and accomplish things ourselves. And this is an easy problem to resolve. I don't know if fewer, I guess, heroes in media or fewer sort of people going through misadventures could, if we were to just like remove that from the media, if that would necessarily solve the cultural expectations. This is, like most issues, not something that's really easy to deal with. I just hope that the hamster of social wellness can smile upon the world and that things will get better.
Oh, okay. And, Gunnarsson.
I don't think I really have anything to say other than what's already been said.
Okay. And the fact that there is a whole new hamster in the Pantheon now.
He has multiple hats. Or it. I don't know. I don't know the hamster's gender.
Even the hamster is working more than one job.
Yeah, tough times for... Is it a god? I don't even know. Tough times for
Thanks,
hamsters.
Obama.
Exactly. Oh, okay. Well, what else can I say on that bombshell? It's good night from me.